When was the last time you saw a movie and it made you want to punch the screen? And I mean, like, every minute of it drove you crazy, but something kept you watching the train wreck, hoping that there would be some reason that you sat through the entire thing. For me, it was last night when I watched the movie Focus with Will Smith. I sat there for 104 minutes. Expectations low from the start. But this movie called Focus managed to lose focus in nearly every other scene. It's just like, if Will Smith's character is supposed to be a con artist, why doesn't he do any dope con artist stuff? Recently, I've been watching the Ocean trilogies, and I'm starting to feel like a real heist or con movie aficionado. Of course, I've seen the classics, such as Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, I've seen The Italian Job, and even some of the infamous classics like Point Break, which has some of the best cameos I've ever seen, such as Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Gary Busey, and John C. McGinley, who I recognize from Scrubs. The point I'm trying to make is that I understand that making a successful con movie is not an easy thing. Let us know in the comments which heist movie is your all-time favorite, because for me, mine is actually Ocean's 11. It's a classic, but it's so good. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the moments in the film that drove me crazy, and if you're a huge fan of this movie, I'm so sorry in advance, but I'm about to tear it apart. Also, why is this your favorite movie? Alright. Focus is a 2015 American romantic crime comedy film starring Will Smith and Margot Robbie. The film tells the story of Nicky Spurgeon, who's played by Will Smith, a seasoned con artist who takes Jess Barrett, played by Margot Robbie, a novice grifter, under his wing. Nicky and Jess embark on a romantic relationship while working together to pull off a series of elaborate heists. But their partnership is tested when Nicky's past catches up with him. The movie received mixed reviews from critics and audiences, with some people praising the on-screen chemistry between Will Smith and Margot Robbie, but to me, in retrospect, the whole thing seems weird now. When I picture Will Smith, all I can imagine is the infamous Oscar slap, and from Margot Robbie, this just seems like a small blip in her rise to celebrity status. Another forgettable movie, just like Babylon. Others criticized the film for its convoluted plot and lack of emotional depth. Despite the mixed reception, Focus was a moderate box office success, grossing over $150 million worldwide on a budget of only $50 million. Clearly, the world doesn't agree with me, because if so, they wouldn't have grossed 3 times the amount of the budget of the film. But let's get into specifics. The first thing that bothered me about this film is the lack of sophistication of the cons they do to each other. The bottom line is that Nicky's crew of thieves are just a bunch of bored old people stealing watches and wallets from random people on the street. No matter how hard they try to frame it or theorize about the greater con man impact that they're doing, at the end of the day, they're just pickpockets. The crew talks as if they are the ultimate criminals, bragging about making $1.2 million in 1 week in Vegas. Which, side note, how the hell did they make that much just by stealing watches? That's never explained. But the truth is, the fact that they were pickpockets doesn't even bother me. Okay, cool, y'all are the best in the biz, but it bothered me that the movie tried to imply that these were some grand conspiracy or accomplishment from the team more than just sleight of hand. Listen, I get it, the movie is called Focus, a play on words to put your focus on something to distract you from what's actually happening. But the concept in itself cannot be the entire movie, and it doesn't hold enough weight metaphorically for me to truly connect with the deeper message. At the end of the day, it's just sleight of hand. And if we're talking about excessive things, let's talk about the number 55. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry, I'm about to spoil it for you, but trust me, it's totally okay. At the climax of the film, Nicky loses a bet of $1 million to some rich dude in a suit at a football game. Frustrated, Nicky tells the rich guy that he is willing to go double or nothing, and the rich guy can choose any number player on the field, and if Nicky guesses it correctly, he wins the bet. Everything Jess, who's Margot Robbie's character, has done in the film has led up to this moment, and us as an audience aren't sure which part is real and which part is fake. Nicky sees the rich guy doesn't love the idea, so he motions to Jess and states that she'll be the one guessing the number. Thinking he has it in the bag, the rich guy agrees and the audience is left to question if Jess actually knows what's going on. In the end, Jess guesses the number 55 correctly, understanding that the rich guy never really had a choice, as Nicky and his team had been priming the number for this exact moment with the rich guy. But what is priming? Okay, quick psychology lesson time. Priming is a phenomenon in psychology where exposure to one stimulus, the prime, influences a person's response to another stimulus, the target. In other words, when we are exposed to a certain stimulus, it can affect our subsequent thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, even if we are not consciously aware of the influence. For example, if you're shown a picture of a dog, you may be more likely to recognize a related word, like puppy or bark, than an unrelated word, like apple. This is because the picture of the dog primes your brain to think about concepts related to dogs. Now, priming is a real thing, but the scene just feels like a huge stretch. Nothing in the film before this showed anything about the number 55 until we saw Jess look into the binoculars and recognize that the number 55 was being worn by the heist crew members. The movie expands on this a little, but I don't know, I'm just looking at the odds and it does not make sense to me. Would I bet $1 million on something that I have a 1% chance on? Even if I'm guessing a card in a deck of cards like magicians, you would assume that the odds are 1 in 52 because there's 52 cards in the deck, but truthfully, that's not even true because we all have internal biases for various symbols, such as hearts. So maybe we would purposely choose a heart card, and maybe the magician could prime us for that. I don't really know. At the end of the day, the odds just seem so slim that I cannot believe he chose it. We can assume that the chance of Nicky winning was way less than 1%, as it's unclear what the rich guy's internal biases were. We've seen this intuition in other movies and TV shows, like Arisu from Alice in Borderland and his understanding of the numbers 3 and 7. The point is, with those odds, I can't imagine anyone putting $2 million on the line. Even though they made the character seem so crazy and excited about it, it just did not seem legit to me. And perhaps the thing that bothered me the most is the focus of the film itself. I mentioned this before, but how does a film called Focus manage to lose focus so quickly? To remind you, this is a con movie, a movie that should be on a shelf next to movies like Inception, Ocean's 11, or Catch Me If You Can. But very quickly, the film moves to focus on the relationship between Margot and Will Smith. It suddenly turns into a cute telenovela, and by the end of the movie, it wasn't clear why I wasn't watching this with my grandmother. Honestly, she watches all of these videos, so Grandma, if you're watching, I know you're a telenovela fan, and I have the perfect movie recommendation for you. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we could watch it together because I really cannot sit through this again. If this was supposed to be a movie that touches on the psychological abilities of humans' focus, and that we were not supposed to understand anything until the last minute, why didn't it feel that way? Where was the amazing catharsis of an ending that shakes us to our core and has us saying out loud, "Oh, okay, so that's how they pulled it off." Remember the ending of Ocean's 11? As a viewer, you're not even sure if they pulled it off until the final reveal in the end that shows that things went off exactly how they planned. But going back to Focus, we don't have that amazing catharsis, that aha out loud moment. In fact, it doesn't happen because simply from the second half of the movie, almost everything becomes focused on the relationship between the first two characters. And don't get me wrong, it was interesting, it's just not what I ordered. I came to eat pizza, and half the box was filled with sushi. Don't get me wrong, I love sushi, but I'm not ordering it from my local pizza spot, Anthony Franco's. In general, it was a cute movie, but I left feeling unsatisfied because truthfully, I expected more. I expected to see how I can trick people and maybe even steal some watches. But in the end, it just felt like a love story with a far-fetched ending that left me scratching my head wondering why I sat through the whole thing. Let us know in the comments if you've seen this movie and if you felt as disappointed as I did. But that's the end of this one. Thanks so much for watching. Big shout out to my grandmother, and I hope the next heist movie I watch will be worth it.